the fire and storm, I remain on. Through the fire and storm, I remain on. Trial by fire, trial by fire. It's the trial by fire. It's the trial through the fire and storm, I remain on. It's the trial by fire.
Welcome everyone to the Armchair Bookers Podcast. I am your host, Joshua Joslin. It is great to be talking wrestling. In this episode, I'm going to recap what is happening in AEW and WWE. Also, I will answer the fan question, what separates the eras of wrestling? So, that's going to be fun. It's going to be a brief recap of several different eras that are fun to talk about and things like that. So, I will put a pin. I'll answer that towards the end. So, with that being said, let's hop into what is happening in AEW. The AEW Grand Slam Eliminator tournament has now settled into the finals. Samoa Joe versus Roderick Strong. I'm digging that because they are integral parts. They're not integral, they're peripheral with a touch of becoming very important in the storyline involving MJF and Adam Cole, which is probably, 1B to the Bloodline. Bloodline still has me hooked. But in terms of best storyline, MJF and Adam Cole, their partnership / competitive friendship, it's really fun to watch what they have going on. So, Samoa Joe and Roderick Strong be involved in the finals of whoever wins is going to go on to face MJF for a shot at the title. I really like it because it expands 3 different stories, right? You get the number 1 contender out of this match. You get Samoa Joe, who, if he wins, who's already stepped face to face with MJF, had a lot to say, which typically ended with him calling MJF kid. MJF is not a fan of that. He tapped into some past memories, which I enjoy from MJF, but Samoa Joe stuck with him as the vet that he is, and I think played a perfect part in a possible challenger to MJF. Roderick Strong involved more with Adam Cole and his past relationship. He's tapped into that in a lot of promos and a lot of calling out Adam Cole and specifically Adam Cole and his relationship with MJF. So if Roderick Strong wins, you have a torn Adam Cole between long-term best friend and new best friend, and I think that Adam Cole has shown his allegiance more towards MJF, so that would show, I think, bring out an even more vicious side of Roderick Strong, and I think we're getting that more and more, and I think that taps into a personality that we didn't really get to see in NXT. Unfortunately, he tended to be a secondary or third even in the couple factions that he was in. He comes off as a bit bland, but I think AEW is tapping into some personality behind Roderick Strong, and what he's talking about is not wrong. The reality era, we'll talk about that later. It's based on real things that we've heard and read about, dirt sheets, true or not, things that have been out there. So he comes out and he addresses those, and that adds layers to a story, especially when the story is involving 2 people that for a fact are friends outside of the ring and have been for years and years and years. So Roderick Strong winning that match adds layers to the best story that AEW has going, the MJF and Adam Cole partnership. They are better than you are, baby. I love that. I think they're doing great work. And again, no matter who wins this match, there's going to be things that come with it. I think both men, win or lose, will find a way to be in the peripheral or directly involved in the MJF and Adam Cole storyline going forward. Let's go on to Jade Cargill making her return to quote unquote save Chris Statlander. The saving didn't go for very long. Jade did attack Statlander, laid her out, made her presence known. The TBS Championship has its newest contender, its previous owner, I think maybe before Statlander. I don't have the order in my mind as to who won when, but I know that Jade was the longest running champion, the TBS champion. So her versus Statlander is going to be physical. Both ladies can really throw hits, throw elbows, throw the shoulders. So that's going to be really fun to watch. The unfortunate part is that the TBS Championship gets way more shine than the AEW Women's Championship. You have a legit storyline built around Jade and how she lost the title when she was, her first loss was losing that title. Statlander not only coming back from injuries, but being the champ. I think there's a lot of great story to tell there because both women can do great things to advance the story in and out of the ring. But the women's title ends up being in a triple, a 3-on-3 match, random 3-on-3 match between the women. It shouldn't work that way, and WWE is not perfect at that. This is not a comparison. This is straight up as an entertainment perspective from a fan. That's not quite how it's supposed to go. We kind of see it in Raw. You know what? I'll balance it so I'm not getting too many angry rolled eyes. They kind of have done that with the WWE Championship that's on Seth Rollins, the Heavyweight Championship. I think it's called. The Intercontinental title has taken a little bit more prestige and main event even, but rightfully so. That title is hot. The storyline is hot. You roll with what is hot. This is a storyline that is fresh and brand new. So it's not like it's been building and has overtaken the women's title. They've purposely put more attention on the TBS Championship. Why didn't Jade come back for the women's title? Like, she's already had the TBS Championship. She already was undefeated for however long. But, that's the knock on that. But I am excited to see Jade back. She's developing some pretty decent ring skills, and, her character will continue to add layers, and I'm a fan. Sammy versus Jericho. I am a huge fan. I'm very, very excited to see that match. This has been really a multi-year slow burn story. Jericho endorsed Sammy from from the first episode or within the first handful of episodes. And they've been semi-attached since then. For good and for bad. I think that there's parts of their allegiance that held Sammy back in certain respects. But that's growing pains with things. Sammy didn't put himself in a great position to have a steady, main event build right off the bat. I don't think that would have gotten there. I still don't think he would have been there at this point, no matter what. But, however, his mistakes are not. Jericho has put a lot of time in supporting Sammy, and I think rightfully so. I'm not a fan of Sammy, but that's the point. He's a great, I don't like you heel. Dominic Mysterio, put a pin in him. Going to talk about him later. I put them in the same category-ish. Dom gets way more heat, just saying. But especially now, because Jericho, it seems to be, I don't know how this one is going to go with the fans in terms of, like, reaction-wise. I think everybody's excited, but reaction-wise, I'm curious what's going to happen. And then to get into, just, to end it with a little bit of dirt with AEW, Jack Perry is getting ripped by people. I think Billy Ray said that he would have just whooped Jack Perry back in the day. That's what would have happened to him. Eric Bischoff flamed him. Ooh, boy. I'm not even going to repeat some of the things that he said. Wrestling Inc. has an interview with Eric Bischoff where he goes in on Jack Perry. So check that out if you want the dirt. CM Punk, of course, is still floating around. Probably even more so than he would be if he didn't beat somebody up backstage. So where's he going? What's he going to do? He's coming back to WWE, this, that, the other. I don't know, but to be honest with you, I'm not huge into caring right now because anything that's going to happen would be, if it comes back to WWE, it would be based around a big pay-per-view, and the next one would be really Royal Rumble. So we'll see what happens closer to that. I don't want this to dominate the headlines, so I am going to move on from it and hopefully only comment on it again when there's something actual happening. Over to WWE. Now, look, that is a short review of what's been happening in AEW. AEW and WWE are both rebuilding storylines and advancing storylines onto their next big PLE/pay-per-views. So I know that I skipped things, but these were the things that it's kind of stuck out for me. If you think I missed something important, let me know. Leave me a comment. Leave me a comment. Really, that's all I got. Moving on to WWE again, an abbreviated look into what's happened this week. So I'm going to jump around a bit, show to show, but the things that stuck out to me. I'm going to skip down my list, actually. I'm going to make sure I do this in a good order. Stick with Shotzi. I think that she has character layers that have not been entirely shown. I think that she, with the vignettes, they were on to a good pace, but then she kind of disappeared from all that, and they put all the attention on Io, which should have happened and did. Great, awesome, I love that. And then Shotzi kind of just shows back up again. I would have hoped to see a little bit more of the vignettes again, teasing her arrival. But hopefully they stick with her and Bayley. I think the two of them could really do amazing things in the ring. Bayley has been a great character to be great. Look, Bayley has done an amazing job. There we go. Of being able to remove herself being the main shine and really helping the wrestler next to her get over. She's great at it. I can't wait for it to flip on Io. But Bayley stepping in with Shotzi is a great chance to put Shotzi into, the higher up on the card. I'm curious what's going to happen with Bianca and Charlotte. Asuka, I'm just going to go right into I was going to save it, but Asuka stepping up against Io. Oh my God, that's a dream match upon dream match. But it feels rushed. This is a big pay-per-view dream match, and I do not oversell that. Legitimately, this should tap into their history with each other. They have been tag team partners way back. They've come up in the same companies. They've wrestled outside of WWE, inside WWE. This is. Don't just jump into it with a PLE. Make it a big event. So we shall see. Jury's out on where that's really going to go, but I pray that it goes to a good place for both women, specifically Io, because Asuka is over, and I think they can continue to put her in good places to get the fan reactions that are needed in that place. Let's move over to Seth and Shinsuke. I like that storyline is continuing. I don't think that Shinsuke is coming out with the belt at this point. With Seth winning the first one, I think that was the chance for Shinsuke to take it. But I am excited to see where it goes. Seth continues to play up the injury angle. I feel like that has to go somewhere within the next big match or two. Otherwise, he's just going to miraculously be healed and still not lose. If you're going to play into it, you got to show the next step of that story. Otherwise, it's okay, you can't be that hurt. You keep doing these things. I would love for Shinsuke to take the belt. It's still possible. I could still see him winning the second, coming out in the third, really being, overly aggressive and just breaking Seth. Seth takes time off, comes back at Royal Rumble. We go from there. I think I mentioned it in an episode or two ago. My predictions episode, that's where it was. We still could see that. I'm just not hopeful. We shall see. I would love for it to happen. Judgment Day has taken over. They have belts. I don't want them to be overdone. There's layers to what they can present, but beyond the tension between Baylor and Priest, who now have the belts together and seem to be able to move past it, at least for the time being. Where's the next story that's going to involve them within them? That's where I'm a bit curious, because I don't see Priest. Oh, you know what? Prince Priest versus jumping in where Shinsuke and Seth. Gonna save that. But Judgment Day taking over. I am enjoying it. Dominic Mysterio is hated. The crowd didn't give him a chance to speak at all. They try to give other ways to get the crowd to at least give a moment for Dominic to get into it. It just didn't happen. They booed him out of the stadium, out of the city, into the next city. He's getting incredible reactions. I do not think that it's go away X-Pac style heat. I think that it's legitimate. He is fully over as a heel heat. I love it. He's obnoxious. He's doing what he has to do. His character has developed to, I can't say I forget, but I can separate Mysterio, the Rey Mysterio dad, from the Dominic Mysterio wrestler. So, he's doing what he has to do for me, in my opinion. Moving on to let's see what's in my notes. What's next for Cody? And I go to that because he's going to lead into what I have after, directly into what I have after. Anyway, what's next for Cody? I'm curious. He did tease a compensation pick for SmackDown because he announced that Jey Uso is now part of the Raw roster. The fact that Cody announced them, they had that nice face-off as they were crossing each other on the ramp, but they also made sure to mention at a later point that SmackDown would get compensation for Jey Uso moving over to Raw. All signs would point to Cody, because that would be a more direct line to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I'm okay with that. I don't mind that it would be an obvious route. I really, really don't. I don't want to see Cody win the Rumble again. So this would be a way for him to still lead directly to Roman without having to win the Rumble again. I like the Rumble to be somebody new that can challenge Seth. Cody already has established his shot at Roman. Something along those lines, but we'll see. Whatever is next, I'm sure people are going to be very excited. I am big on Cody right now, so I am excited to see what is next. Jey can lead to a significant amount of storylines, a lot of different things that they could do and develop behind Jey. I'm excited to see that, including a run at Seth. Royal Rumble. Well, I mean, he would go over to Roman. Ignore that, erase that. Just saying, Jey has a lot of opportunities on the Raw roster to do big things. Main event Jey, hopefully, is the character that we're going to really make sure that we see on Raw. He's going to do big things. I'm going to end the WWE recap with Gunther versus Gable. I'm going to say a handful of things quickly. Go watch the match. Gable should get the belt at some point. Gunther has beaten the record and has done so in such a dominant, amazing fashion that him losing the belt does nothing to him at all. He is next in line should be, once he drops the belt, next in line against Seth. He should take the belt from Seth. There we go. If you're not going to give it to Shin, Gunther's next. Because him losing the belt to Gable doesn't hurt Gunther, shines up Gable. He deserves it. He's earned it. He has done just such great things through his entire WWE career. Whatever they've given him, he's run with. Shorty G, let's forget it, but let's not forget it. But now let's forget it again. The shush. It's funny, it's over, but now, it's past that with what he's done with Gunther. Like, Gable deserves bigger matches, bigger shine. He deserves the belt. I think that would be great. We'll see if that happens. But Gable should continue to be in that upper mid-card moving forward. All right, now on to the question of the week, asked by my friend Noah Lewis. Thank you for the support, Noah. Noah asked, what separates the different eras in wrestling? So skipping the origins of professional wrestling, such as the Carney era and the original, established professional wrestling as a actual wrestling match, as shoot, although they were works. So I'm going to start with the territory era. Again, this is very abbreviated as I move through these eras. I'm going to talk about, what they kind of established at the time, how they, some superstars of that era, because I encourage you to, if you don't know the name of anybody I list moving forward, check them out. I'm mentioning them for a reason. They are great, amazing wrestlers. And each era, just Google the era and see what they, top 5 wrestlers and read about them. So let's start with the National Wrestling Alliance era, the NWA. During this time, the wrestling was about territories, so they were the country was basically split all the way up into Canada and even into Mexico, Puerto Rico. They were all split into different territories that were owned by a specific promotion, by specific promoter. You had Davy Crockett Promotions. You had Smoky Mountain. You had promotions down south, Midwest, pretty up in Canada. Stampede Wrestling from the Hearts, all over the country, up into Canada, like I said, down to Mexico and Puerto Rico. During this time, the belts were established belts. So there was an NWA champion. That champion traveled to different territories throughout the country, like I said, and would wrestle, defend that belt. It was a great time for promoting wrestling as an event, as something very special. Like you have to go see this, otherwise you might not get to see it again. So you had, champions like Harley Race, Ric Flair, Lou Thesz, Dusty Rhodes, Buddy Rogers. They were all champions coming through. You had Bobo Brazil. You had an endless amount of wrestlers who traveled the country, selling their characters, selling their brand, and showing that they were the best in the Canada, America, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. They had the belt that people wanted, the tag team belt that people wanted, the heavyweight belt people wanted. So that started to expand. And then kind of, focus in on one specific family, the McMahon era. So the McMahon era, they left, Vince McMahon Sr. left the NWA, changed his promotion. Now, his promotion is Northeast, which is kind of frowned upon, wrestling in the Northeast. It was a Southern wrestling. That was what people viewed it as. This was wrestling with some more entertainment. Superfly, Jimmy Snuka jumping off cages. You had superstar Billy Graham, superstar, the birth of the WWE superstar. What do we call them? Superstars. Where do you think it came from? But that established wrestling. The wrestling mecca being Madison Square Garden. Bruno Sammartino. He started to see opportunities to bring stars away and put it into his company. At that point, territories started to look at WWF as an outlaw company, as a direct competitor, and things got even a little bit more hectic, a little bit more frustrating once Vincent Kennedy McMahon took over, bought the company from his father, renamed the company WWF. Now we know as WWE, so I'll refer to it as WWE. Vincent Kennedy McMahon introduces us to the Golden Era. He expanded on the TV rights that started to develop during the NWA era. He brought episodic TV wrestling. Saturday main event. Pay-per-views started to become something special that he really put big cards together, big promotion together. This was about characters that were bigger than life, bigger even than Bruno, because now we are talking nationwide, right? They weren't territory specific. Vince brought in a nationwide television market, started connecting to everywhere, and then who came to WWE at that point? Everybody from all the territories. So this was the time where the territories started to shudder. Some people consider it a very dark time, but it is the evolution of wrestling. It brought us Hulkamania, rock and wrestling. Hulk Hogan had his own cartoon show with Cyndi Lauper. That was Mr. T was on it. A whole bunch of it was a great cartoon. However you feel about Hulk now, notwithstanding, during the time he was bigger than big. Savage, Andre the Giant, Ultimate Warrior, Ted DiBiase, Junkyard Dog, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. These are the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. These were the gentlemen that started to. They were on the build up at this point, and they shifted us into the new era of wrestling. The new era, was bumpy for WWE. WCW started to pump up at this point, started to restock their roster. So during the golden era, sort of the new generation era, WWE committed to gimmicks and youth. So Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Yokozuna started to take front stage. We brought over Lex Luger, the Lex Express. No, but we started to put focus on some of the wrestlers that had been in the company and were not main eventers. But now that Hulk left, now that we had Savage, we had some big older names move over to WCW. This opened up a lot of opportunity for WWE to establish new wrestlers, but beyond Hart, Michaels, Taker, we had Papa Shango, who was a voodoo wrestler, Charles Wright, who became the Godfather, luckily, Gobbledygooker, who was Hector Guerrero, sorry about that, dude, Repo Man, who literally came out and stole things, repoed things, Samba Simba, unfortunately, was Teddy Atlas came out with a lion headdress. It was awful. I'm going to move through the Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era, PG Era a little bit quicker. Attitude Era, these eras were a little bit more well known. Attitude Era was blood, violence, sexualized. The women. It was about character and promo more than wrestler. You had the Undertaker evolving Stone Cold, DX, NWO, The Rock. You had Mr. McMahon. Vincent Kennedy McMahon became Mr. McMahon. Became one of the greatest heels in wrestling history. You had Mick Foley doing amazing hardcore things. You had Chyna. You had the Cat, Sable, Jacqueline. They were the women who could... some of them could wrestle, but most of them were involved in bra and panty matches. Not things that were phenomenal. You had the Nation of Domination, which was, I think, one of the most underrated stables. But a lot of stables were established in the Attitude Era. Ruthless Aggression Era really built where we are now. It moved away from the over-the-top gimmicks, committed more to developing the new stars, similar to the New Era, but we did have some great holdovers from the Attitude Era. We had Triple H, Jericho, who came in kind of towards the end of Attitude Era. The Rock was still kind of around on a part-time basis for the most part. Stone Cold, same thing. We saw the rise of Kurt Angle, Edge, Batista, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Booker T. We started to see better wrestling from the women, a little bit more time. We had Lita, Beth Phoenix, Melina, Michelle McCool. Trish Stratus was kind of in between Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression. Wrestling became a little bit more to the forefront, which was nice. Storytelling as a whole kind of stepped back, in my opinion. I started to lose interest around that time, unfortunately. That brings us into the PG Era. John Cena. That's really all I have to say for that. But program moved to a very clean content, no cursing, very family friendly, no blood, no headshots. Thankfully, no headshots. I've been against those for years. But like I said, John Cena dominated. You had Randy Orton continue to blossom for Ruthless Aggression Era, Edge, Batista. You had women stepping in who had legitimate wrestling ability. You had AJ Lee, you had Paige, CM Punk came into the scene for WWE around this time, and had some opportunities to push the envelope, and we saw where things kind of went. The reality era is where we are now. Social media grew the brand. Wrestlers became more, especially on the indie circuit, became more individualized brands. They had an opportunity to market themselves to promotions across the world, and I think that saw a rise in wrestling ability, which created a rise in legitimate wrestling options. We have AEW, we have MLW, we have New Japan being more known in the U.S., AAA, obviously WWE. We have great promotions across the country, north, south, east, west, offering the best wrestling that we've ever seen. Amazing characters, so it's been really cool. More acrobatic style moveset. So the wrestling has been, there's fans for, there's fans, anger against. There's more opportunity for shoot/work stories, because again, social media gives that opportunity to blend, like, oh wow, they're really getting at each other, as just for a story down the road. So it's offered a lot of really cool things for the storytelling aspect of wrestling. So I'm a fan. I think that the work in the ring needs to kind of get under control, sell more, establish finishing moves that end a match, but we'll see how things go. All right. Next week, I'll be sticking with some AEW and WWE coverage. Obviously, if anything pops up that is big, I'll make sure I mention / talk about for an entire episode if it's huge. But before I let you leave, don't forget, while you wait for my newest episode to drop, you can find previous content such as interviews and old episodes with new content on the way. YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Like, follow, subscribe. Immediately set your downloading on your podcast to download this podcast. Shout out to John Kiernan, my producer, and the amazing artist behind my theme, Into the Fire, featuring Mont Easy. John Kiernan Music. Check him out on all platforms. He's got big things on the way. You can find my theme, Into the Fire, on iTunes, plus the rest of John Kiernan Music's music. Thanks again, and with that being said, John, throw me into the fire that is Wrestling Podcast. Baby.